Sadly, we lost, well, for me anyway, a very cherished family member with COVID.
I'm very sorry to hear that. Who was
It was.
that?
Well, it sounds on the face of it that it wasn't somebody that I'd be that close to, really. But in fact, I actually was. It's my ex-brother-in-law. So my sister's second husband, who she was with for a good number of years, and who really, my niece and nephew, who I'm very close to, he's not their biological father, but as far as they're concerned, he's their dad.
Yes, yes.
And Bob was one of these people who's larger than life. He'd walk into a room and he'd instantly, well, from my perspective, always made me feel better. However I was feeling, within 5 minutes, you'd have a chat with Bob and you just feel great. And he was always the first one to go to the bar. He'd always buy everybody a drink. You know, he was just a big man with a big heart, really.
Yes.
And he got COVID about a month ago. And after about a week, ended up being hospitalised. And then it was just this most horrible deterioration, really. So it's been a bit, and it's the whole thing with grief, isn't it? That 1 minute I'm fine and life's going on okay. And he wasn't even somebody I saw very much. But he always made family events more bearable for me, if I'm honest.
And he sounds like he's one of those people that was a kind of key piece of the glue that kind of knitted the family dynamic in a sense. And so apart from the loss of him as a person, there's like a reforming, in a sense, of the family system.
Yeah, and it was odd because I thought, so crazy. And because obviously I'm going to go to the funeral, and I thought it's going to be really grim. And, you know, so many people are going to be so upset. And I thought, oh, never mind, Bob will be there. And I thought, idiot, of course he won't be there. Why do you think you're going? You know, that kind of crazy way that your brain can work, because how can he be not
but it shows what he represents.
Yeah.
And in a strange way, of course, he won't be there, but in a strange way, he'll be there more than ever, because it's him that everyone's there to honour, in a sense.
Yeah. So, yes, it has been tough because of trying to do the meditations and the work on stuff. I mean, I have done the module, but it wasn't done. I think it was the end of last week that I finally did do it. But doing the meditations and trying to look at the historical sadness was really hard because, of course, it was overlaid by the new sadness.
Yes.
But I just I accepted two things, I think, at one point, that I felt I had to detach a little bit from family because there are ways away. There's nothing I can actually do. I mean, my niece knows I'm there for her if she needs me. So does my nephew. I've written a letter to her and to Lynn, his partner. I'm going to go to the funeral. There's nothing much else I can actually physically do. And I thought I can't, or at least I mustn't get too overly worried about them because actually they're grown-ups and I have a tendency to do that. So it was kind of trying to separate. I was thinking about the whole thing about being empathic, trying to separate where I ended and they began, if you like, so that whole thing didn't get merged and I didn't feel actually worse.
Well, in a sense, when people go through painful experiences like grief, they default to the same things they normally default to, right? So people that are practical get practical. People that drink. People that try and help everyone else. Like, we go to the patterns we use, but we intensify them because that's what we know to do to cope, and it's our familiar place. So in some ways, it's probably challenging for you because you're someone that you loved and you had a connection with, but proximity-wise, you weren't so close to this chapter in life. So you're not the natural person to go in and do the helping and the organising and the practical. So in a sense, it's in some ways harder because you're then left with your feelings and not able to action the coping strategies that you otherwise might have used. How has it been to just sit with, because you're right, we talk about your historical sadness, but this is also a current sadness.
I decided just to give myself a get out of jail free card in a way, and just thought, just try and cope with each day. I think what was particularly hard was when we didn't know, he was in a coma and we didn't know what was going to happen. And
how long did that last for?
best part of a week.
Wow, that's really hard.
And I did say at one point, oh, can you let me know? And I had to realize they couldn't let me know because they'd all got so much going on. But if I'm honest, there was an element, and I'm not particularly, I've tried to acknowledge the feeling and be grateful for it. Proud of myself, though, in a way of how I felt, because I felt really isolated because I was at home on my own.
Yes.
And I almost felt, well, I did feel a bit jealous of all of them because I thought they've all got each other for a hug and all the rest of it. And I'm here on my own, not knowing what's going on. And actually I think there was one particular Sunday that was actually really difficult. And I was going to do a walk just to get myself out and about. I can't remember if I went to, I think I did a much shorter walk than I was going to do, and did the usual, had a bath, tried to do a bit of meditation, just cried. I did have a drink, but not 3 bottles. But just kind of different bits and pieces to sort of just do the best I could with it for myself, really.
I mean, what you're describing sounds to me like the acts of self-care.
Yeah.
That you thought I should go for a long walk and you didn't want to, so you didn't push yourself to. You needed to cry and you let yourself do that. You let yourself have a drink, but you didn't go to excess. I mean, it sounds to me, I think people sometimes have this idea that self-care means this very beautiful, wonderful thing, like a bit like people read autobiographies and assume they have Hollywood endings to them. And most people's lives just continue being challenging and difficult in the ways they were before, and self-care doesn't mean beautiful music and incense and a moment of deep perfection of everything. Self-care is doing the best you can to show up to what you need in that moment. And it sounds to me like you were doing that.